The Office for Budget Responsibility was begun to create oversight for budget responsibility. Like many quangos, the idea is, on the face of it, sound. You create a body which overlooks and ensures that there is appropriate controls, appropriate behaviour, and you separate it from the politicians. The problem at the heart of this is that you create a political body which pretends not to be political. You create a quango. And a limited number of quangos is probably sensible, but there are over 500 in the UK. I'm looking at a list, I'll put a link in the description, to 600 bodies. Some of them go back a long way, like the Advisory Committee on Conscientious Objectors. It was actually formed in 1948 under Churchill. But then we have things like the Academy for Social Justice, the Advisory Committee on Clinical Impacts, the Advisory Committee on Novel Foods and Processors, the Advisory Committee on the Misuse of Drugs. Don't MPs know enough about this? The Bank of England. Now we get into troublesome issues. The interest rates are set, the amount of money printed, and the control of inflation is in the hands of a non-governmental, i.e. non-elected body. Your parliament can't control those things. And whilst we don't know the political colour of the heads of the Bank of England, we do know that Mark Carney went on to be Prime Minister of Canada, so he certainly had a left-leaning perspective on things. The BBC World Service generates propaganda for Hamas and isn't held accountable. Look at the post office. It was run by the government, but not really. And who's making them stand to account for the decisions they made to falsely prosecute people? Look at Motability. They give you a car if you have a food allergy. Well, we pay for that, and those decisions are made by unelected individuals. This explosion of quangos is undemocratic. We end up with a large portion of the government's responsibility not being properly overseen by a government minister, not being held accountable to Parliament, not being held accountable to the people through Parliament. The government got rid of NHS England because of bureaucratic inefficiency. I actually saw a lot of benefit in that body, and I hope that those benefits will be transferred over to the Department of Health fully. These hundreds of quangos operate behind closed doors with no real public awareness of what they're doing. A lot of them are doing projections and predictions, which, as the OBR has shown us, aren't always worth the paper they're written on. And the OBR shows us a fatal flaw in the system. A Chancellor cannot go against the OBR's projections, even though those projections are never right. A Chancellor cannot set the interest rate, even though driving down inflation is key. Tool is being able to set the inflation rate and the amount of money created. I'm sure they can make a suggestion, but Liz Truss's disastrous budget shows you it's not always listened to, and they're not always rowing in the same direction. We all like to laugh at Yes Minister, 40 years after it was created. And MPs have flaws, let's be honest. But we can vote them out. Quangos are there for life, and a very gold-plated life for many. In truth, there's very little a government can do to improve the economy. I'm of the view that they can make it worse very easily, but it's difficult to actually help the economy improve, especially if they don't want to get out of the way of the economy and the people who actually make money for the country. But the truth is that the Chancellor of the Exchequer doesn't manage the economy. Unelected individuals that most people can't name at the OBR and the Bank of England actually make the decisions, and they make it pretty much independent of our elected politicians. Is it time that we got rid of a lot of these quangos, pulled them back inside government departments, and asked what value they're actually creating? Maybe how accurate their predictions are. Well, if you've made it this far, why don't you like and subscribe so you don't miss my next set of complaints?